Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for watching. Today we are at Spring Mill State Park, 1,358 acres, 3 miles south of Bloomington in Mitchell, Indiana. This is Memorial Day weekend. There's a Civil War reenactment going on. We're going to explore the Pioneer Village a little bit, founded in 1814, and we're even going to get to see the sawmill run today. So let's go! When we arrived at the state park, we had no idea that a Civil War battle was about to break out. This was a pleasant surprise because we had never seen a reenactment before. This got me wondering if a battle was ever fought here. It turns out yes, in Indiana, but no, not in the state park. The Battle of Corydon was fought in Corydon, Indiana. Other than Gettysburg, the Battle of Corydon was the only other battleground on northern soil. The reenactment that you saw today was just to honor the Memorial Weekend holiday in an 1800s fashion. To learn more about the Battle of Corydon, go to harrisoncountyparks.com. So if you lived in this time, your main staple was bread. How do you get bread? Well, if you're a farmer or a frontiersman, you grow your own grain. Probably wheat, rye, or buckwheat, and you make your own flour. There are two ways you can do this. Grind it with a stone yourself, or bring it to the town mill. The grist mill was built in 1817, and it was restored in 1927. One of the largest mills in southern Indiana. Before the days of social media, this is how you were social. People would come from all over and barter, trade, and sell goods. It was also a place where you could come and talk about your neighbors and get all the gossip on everyone else. What else are you going to do while sandstone is grinding your grain into a fine powder? That process takes time. In 1932, the Montgomery brothers added a sawmill to the operation. The large wheel you saw earlier was for the grist mill, but there's a much smaller wheel under this platform that powers the saw. This was a time before chainsaws. Trees had to be cut down with axes. Two men had to go back and forth with a crosscut saw to get a downed tree into manageable pieces. Those pieces would then be lifted into a cart and sent to town to be milled into lumber. People would even load their lumber onto flatboats and send it down the White River to come to this mill for processing. Using water power over manpower was a huge luxury, and really a much smarter versus harder way of working. This 3-story mill is now the center point of all history and archives on the property. Each display talks about something different. Religion of the time, how kids were schooled. There are tons of arrowheads here which made the kid in me go crazy. There are displays about how people used to dress, what utensils they used to eat with. Most moms in modern times know what a pack and play is. This is the 1800s version.
You gotta cage them children.
That's right. It was hard getting all the chores done without having to watch the children too. The third floor has more about the Civil War and also has a mock doctor's office. Outhouses were located in public places like churches and general stores. The moon on the side of the building meant that it was for ladies only. If you've seen outhouses with 2 seats in it, that was typically for women and their small children. Gentlemen's outhouses would have a moon and stars on the side. If you've ever wondered what toilet paper was like back then, this talks about how they used corn cobs and husks. While that sounds pretty rough, later on they started using newspaper and catalogs. Eventually, the Old Farmer's Almanac decided that they would put a hole in the corner of their book so that people could hang it in their outhouses and mice wouldn't shred the pages. I didn't know I was coming to this mill to learn about outhouses today, but I'm so glad I did. So this trestle is how water gets to the grist mill. As we get a little closer to the top, you can see a rush of water coming over the hill.
The water comes from.
Unfortunately, we did not get to see the gristmill run today. They said that it was actually out of order. But if you're interested in seeing a functional gristmill, we encourage you to visit Bridgeton. This is the carpenter's shop. A tree branch is hung across the ceiling to create a lathe. The limb acts like a spring going up and down. A line is hung from the branch, wraps around the spindle, and attaches to a pedal below. The downside of this method is that the spindle moves in two directions. He explains here that the creation of the flywheel came into existence, similar to a treadle sewing machine. This moves the spindle in one direction at a more even speed. So you've come all this way and your goal is to spend a little bit of time in town? While your grain is being milled and your logs are being cut into boards, what are you going to do with your time? Maybe you want to stop by the school and see if your child could be enrolled. Or maybe your kids are driving you nuts and you need to stop by the distillery for some whiskey. Maybe you've had too much whiskey and you need to go to the apothecary for something for your stomach.
How are you? Good, how are you? Very good. Welcome to the apothecary.
Oh no, it looks like you have a hole in your hat. You better stop by the milliner. And while you're at it, you might as well stop by the blacksmith to get a piece for your carriage. And that reminds me, the carpenter has a table that I commissioned that I need to pick up. Or maybe you just want to settle into the tavern for a few drinks and see what's new with the townspeople. As we come to a close, I just want to say, if you came here as a kid on a field trip and you didn't find it very interesting, please give it a second try as an adult. Maybe you're not big on history, but there are so many other things to enjoy here. We haven't even gotten into hiking, the lake, and the caves nearby. Visit this village for the architecture, and because you've been knee-deep in a creek and you appreciate the power of water, or because it's fun to think about who you might have been during this time period. Sure, there are lots of people here today, but it didn't stop us from learning so much about how things used to be. And hey, there's a little bit of wildlife here too. This is a common water snake to the area.
They got a privacy fence. Oh, it's a big step. Step made basically, right? Got that at the local nursery, right? Can't believe they let kids in the distillery. These are different times, right? Night juice.
Give my kids night juice.
Wallpaper on the ceiling, man. People were doing it. You got wallpaper on your ceiling.
Thank you.